I'm Dr. Helene. Welcome to the Vision Builders podcast. Hey, today we are talking to a nationally recognized psychologist and award-winning professor, Dr. Roxanne Donovan. She's going to talk to us about what it means to do the work you're meant to do inside and outside the academy. What does that look like? How do we co-create healing spaces for ourselves so that we can touch the people we need to touch and keep ourselves safe as well? So let's get into it. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us again on the Vision Builders podcast. I am here with my friend, the amazing Dr. Roxanne Donovan, who is a nationally recognized psychologist and award-winning professor at Kennesaw State University. Her writing translates research into real talk on how to foster our well-being in unjust environments. Let me just pause on that because a lot of us know what that feels like right now. She's co-author also of 2 books, Teaching Diversity Relationally and Unraveling Assumptions, and is currently co-writing a 3rd, We Who Mother, Lessons in Black Feminist Mothering. And this is going to be really interesting because I can't wait to get into that a little bit. Through Well Academic, which is her faculty development organization, she's helped hundreds of historically excluded scholars to cultivate more joy, focus, and fulfillment in academia. Y'all, I'm one of these, so please welcome my friend Roxanne to Vision Builders.
Oh, so happy to be here.
I'm so delighted to have you. Okay, as one of your fans, of course, of all the things that you do through Well Academic, I am going to be diving into some of my curiosities. If you
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
some of my curiosities. I mean, because, I know your care and your heart for women of color. Like, I have been to your retreat, which is amazing. You all need to sign up. You have amazing workshops and writing programs, and just opportunities in making space for us. When did you decide that you were going to step out into doing that, into providing this kind of space out here, outside, as the kids say? You came outside.
That's funny. The way you asked the question, it makes it sound like it was intentional. And to be honest, it was a bit of a happenstance, right? I was doing coaching in another organization. And when that ended, I missed therapy, right? I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And I started coaching because I missed therapy so much, but I didn't quite have the bandwidth to do therapy. And coaching felt like a way to keep my foot in the therapy door, meaning use my training, use my skills, but yet still be doing something that doesn't require me to be available 24/7, doesn't require me to, follow very specific kind of ways of being that I found at the time, because I had 2 young ones, really extractive. And when I made that turn into coaching, it was the opposite of extractive. It was really energizing.
Oh, yes, it is.
It was like, how do I stop doing this so I can do the day job?
Right.
It felt like, I don't know. I don't want it to sound corny, but I guess it will anyway. It just felt so right.
Yeah.
And that
But it's energizing.
Yes, I was doing the work that I was meant to do.
Yeah.
So after that opportunity ended, I hung out for a year trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then some clients that I had seen, I want to say 5 years before, contacted me and said, are you doing any clinical work? And I was like, no. They're like, are you doing any coaching? And I said, and they were faculty. And I was like, you ask a very interesting question. So the answer is yes for you, right? And it was a yes for you with one client, then it was a yes for you for another client. And then some other people and I who had been coaching in the same space that I was coaching, they were like, oh, wow, maybe we should do something together. And so, yeah, well, academics started, right? But it wasn't very intentional. It wasn't, this is going to be something that I do long term. It was just something exciting. And you know this because you're running a small business. Like, if you're not careful, it could take over your whole life. And,
Yes,
you know, for me, I wanted to do, when I decided to make the turn, when I decided to like set up shop, I moved from being more happenstance because I'm serving people. And so I had to get my act together.
Right.
And start
Kind of have to act like a
professionalizing the space.
professional in this space.
Right. Because I don't want to like put out a shingle and then disappear.
Right.
And so I became more focused on, okay, how much time am I going to give this? How do I boundary this, but then give my all when I'm in the space? How do I decide how many clients I want to take? And, you know, it went from something that was more, oh, happenstance to something that was, wow, this could be something. And I'm really committed to it. When you get serious about something, it means that you have to put much more energy. And when you say you're going to do something, you have to show up in exactly the way that, at least that's me, right? That's my ethos. If I say I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it exactly when I say I'm going to do it. And so it started to be much more professionalized in that way. The other co-founders were like, this is a lot of work. I'm out. And so it ended up just being me, which is fine, right? I totally understand that. And it has grown more so because people come to me and ask me, you know, have you thought about doing this? And I'd been thinking about a retreat for quite some time. And I brought it up to a client. She was like, send me an invoice. Our fiscal
immediately
year ends in like a couple of weeks, so send it now. And I'm like, but I'm just, what?
Like, I'm literally just trying to bounce this off you.
But I listen when the universe speaks.
Yeah.
And I thought if someone was going to take the risk, and it's a risk showing up to a space, choosing to be vulnerable, even spending your precious time to do something. Like, I'm putting folks of color in a mountain, like nature,
on a mountain.
Come on.
Yes, in the south. And
if someone's gonna trust me enough to do that, I'm gonna follow through and see what's possible. And you know, when one person comes to you and says, this sounds like a good idea, it doesn't mean that other people will. But when you're touching on a need, it feels like the minute you make the decision to turn toward the thing, and for me, like the building of the retreat was a thing, it just kind of happened. And you know, not everything in small business is that. The word that's coming to my mind, but it's actually an imperfect word, was easy. It's not easy to hold space. It's not easy to plan a retreat, but it was easy to fill the retreat because of the need. And then it was just beautiful to be present, to use the skills that I've been trained in psychology, social justice, ethnic studies, gender and women's studies. It was like this way that I got to use a variety of skills that I don't necessarily get to use in academia. I got
not all together and not every day.
Not all together.
It's usually kind of compartmentalized.
And not based on my vision, right?
No.
Sometimes I use it, but I'm enacting other people's visions.
Right.
And so I got to co-create with the people who showed up on the mountain this healing space for women and femme of color. And I was just so humbled and so grateful to be able to bear witness to folks' journey toward wellness. And I was like, oh, so now a retreat's part of the business. But you see how you see how it happened, right?
Mix up on you. But I mean, I firmly believe that when you take that step and your heart is to serve people, like your heart is to kind of answer a need. I mean, I can't imagine that it would have gone any other way, because the minute I saw that come through and I thought, is this women of color going on a retreat? is my checkbook? Like, where's my credit card? Get my credit card together. How can we, and by the way, how can we get this paid for? Like all the things.
And it's professional development, which is,
because it is, you set it up in such a
yes.
way that it is set up for people to experience it in response to work. It is a professional development experience. It is making you better.
How can we work without being well? I mean, it's
Right.
base, and certainly the systems and structures that we're in make
Yeah.
being well really, really challenging. And so we've got to refuse in many of these spaces. We got to resist in many of these spaces. And we got to be in community in order to refuse and resist, because it's hard to do it in isolation.
If you have community, because so many people, I think, who, participate, do they even have others? Like, we're so few, right?
And I think that's where you and I have a very shared mentality. Like, for all the things that Well Academic does, helps people write, helps people show up to the mountain and be well, like the secret thing, like the thing that I'm trying to do is create a sense of belonging. Like, we need to be in spaces where we don't have to perform, where we don't leave parts of ourselves behind to get some marginal level of acceptance. Like, we need to come in just as we are and be so appreciated. Like, how rare is that? And to create spaces where people see themselves reflected in the faces of other people in the space, but also feel seen, heard, and valued. Like, if that's something that I can give, no matter where it is, whether it's, on a mountain, on a retreat, or in a Zoom writing community, then I feel like I'm doing what I'm called to do. But here's the flip side of doing what you feel called to do, or what people ask you to do. It is so easy to then be stretching yourself thin. So if there are any entrepreneurs out there who are thinking, a pathway
to us, Roxanne. We need a conversation right now.
The way to build a business is just do what people ask me to do. I would keep the retreat for sure. But if I were to do it over again, I think I would be much more intentional of the specific things that I want to do in the business, in order to do it with integrity. So if I'm saying that we need to be well, and we need to put our wellness first, because we can't, without it, nothing else matters. We can't be 100%. The teachers we want to be, the researchers we want to be, the moms we want to be, the partners we want to be, the humans we want to be, without attending to our wellness. I need to do that with integrity. So, like, I had to make some hard decisions after I built all of these things that had to do with throttling back to, like, bring to make the to make the business that I find such joy in, right? Not something that ends up being extractive, and not something that takes me away from my well-being, my family, and also my professorship, which is, I know there are people leaving, and I know there are people who are quiet quitting, and I'm like, I see you and I understand. For me, I still really love being a professor. And I find great joy in that work too. And so I'm not ready to just
let that go.
No.
Or to just plan your exit. No, I get it. Because there are ways in which, and not just because of the stability, but because I don't know that people really feel that stable in a lot of spaces, but also just because we do still know that we need to be present, right? We are serving populations of students who want to see us there, who need to see us there, and who need to be exposed to us there, even if that's their only, even if that's what it is. And so, it's kind of like, I am an advocate for doing various things at various moments, but I've been on a reset as well, sort of like, okay, let's pause, because if another thing comes in the door, like you were just saying, if you get another opportunity and the thing comes in the door, you have to figure out, what is this going to look like? And you have to be really deliberate. So I love that you said that, just that there are so many things that we can do. I mean, we're amazing. right?
I
We're
know you
amazing.
are.
Oh no, no, I mean, we're amazing though. I mean, we're amazing. I mean, women in general, like we're amazing because of our maybe it's the upbringing, the training, the lack of options, all the things, but to be able to do a lot of things. But I love what you're saying about just not everything is going to stay, too. Some things you'll do in a season, and then some things will evolve into something else. But like you said, to make sure that you're still getting the kind of joy and excitement about doing it, because you want to bring yourself to it, like your whole heart to it the way that you did before. You don't want to invent something that becomes, a mantle on you that is too heavy to even bear.
I think
So,
what's super challenging, particularly for women of color and other historically excluded folks, is when you care
yeah.
and there's need and you have a level of competence like that. Care plus need
Yeah.
plus competence, just forget it. And we're
I know.
socialized. We're
You're gonna do
socialized to
Yes.
care. We
Yes.
wouldn't have gotten here if we were not exceptional, as you say. And
Yes.
these spaces that we're in, they always need because they're not resourcing and not showing up for like our students of color, as an example. And
Mhm.
so, when we have these conversations about you have to say no or you have to set boundaries, I don't I want to complicate that and nuance that. Yes, of course, you have to have a humanizing relationship with work,
Right.
like that's base. But when
Right.
people say, well, just say no, or just let go of the retreat, or just let go of the writing community, I'm like, you don't like what? Because
Right.
it matters. What
Right.
we do matters. And
Right.
setting boundaries is this individual way of making your individual life maybe a little bit better. But there are structural and systemic things that if you understand structures, if you understand systems, it is the most painful. It
Right.
is the most painful thing to say, I can't do this thing that matters.
Right.
And one of the ways that I have had these conversations with myself, with others, but I'll let you into my own head. It's
Mhm.
oh, I don't have the energy, but you have to. But I don't have the energy. But if not you, who will? I'm fighting with
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
And so, like with the retreat, one of the ways that I reconciled that, it was like, I'm not going to give it up. It matters to me. It matters to the communities of people who show up on that mountain and need the healing. And I don't have the capacity to do it every year. So I made the
Mhm.
decision to do it every year, every other year.
I was gonna
Not every year. You see,
every
Freud would say you really want to do it every year. And I would tell Freud, you are correct. And that's why the slip happened. But I mean, my point is that
Yeah.
I letting it go was just anathema to who I am and what I believe, and showing up, right?
Right.
And doing it every year was also super challenging. And
Yeah.
some people would say, well, you're just prolonging struggle, but actually it has given me a lot of grace to now do it every other year. It has opened up space for me to plan more and to be more
Yes.
kind of mindful about how I want to curate that space. And I get like, I've always gotten excited. I ain't gonna lie. I always got excited
Right.
about the retreat, but the administration before the retreat was
Mhm.
always very exhausting. But now that that's extended to 2 years, it
Mhm.
feels so much easier. And so sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what would it look like if I gave myself permission to say no after saying yes? I think that is some of the most powerful things, right?
Mm.
Because the default is I'm going to show up for many of us who are socialized.
Right.
Many of us are socialized to show up. And
Right.
so sometimes it's about giving yourself permission to say no after saying yes, and then envision what that no would look like. Is it no forever? Is it no for
Right.
now? Is it
Mhm.
no every year? And so I had to take my own advice and do the practice that I teach others, which is to slow down,
Yeah.
consider all of my values, not just my value for justice, which is for me so prominent, not just my value for showing up for the community, which for me is so prominent, but my other values, like my value of integrity, to do this work from a place of integrity, my value of family, of love, of connection, of belonging, of well-being. Like once I paused enough to widen the lens beyond just the values that kind of vibrate in my head most loudly, I realized that there is a way to do this, to do the work, in particular the retreat, in a way that is generative and loving for the communities that I care about, but also generative and loving to me.
That says so much about the way that we ought to be making decisions just generally because of how overwhelming, like you said, when that intersection of our ability and skill set and, recognizing the needs that we care about, it's empowering and super dangerous for our mental health. I mean, because like you said, it's so difficult. I remember being very frustrated by, people saying, "Oh, you just need to say no
No is
to."
a complete
It's
sentence.
a complete sentence and all the things, and you're just like, "Yeah," and you walk out thinking, "Yes, that's what I'm gonna do." And then you're faced with the reality, but like you said, but I'm not being confronted necessarily with a whole bunch of things that I would say no to otherwise. It's things that align with the attitude that I have, my particular skill sets, the way that I want to represent what I do, the work I want to do socially and in social justice
Oh,
or
we know
uplifting
what the
my
easy
community.
no's are, right? We know
Right,
when
like the easy no's
someone
are
is
not the
like,
problem, especially post tenure. I can't throw them out quick enough.
when the person comes, it's like, oh, why don't you serve on this committee and get no, and it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with your value system. It has nothing to do with who you care about. It's easy to say no. I'm talking about the hard no's,
A hard
right?
no.
The painful ones, the ones where you're like,
Yes.
this matters to me. This is why I came
Yes.
into the academy to do, but there's just so much need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
individuals can't solve systemic problems, right?
That part.
At least if we're not in positions of some serious power.
Right.
And but the systemic problems exist and they injure the groups and people that we care about. And yeah, so I just want to honor that it is painful.
It
And I
is.
get how we get stuck in overwork. Like it makes sense to me.
And
And
that makes it that much more painful, doesn't it, when it's yours? Like, when you talk about even if you fell into it, even if it was nuanced and maybe less deliberate, even having to tell yourself no, I mean, like, to have to sit in your head and sort of assess your values from a different like, to widen that lens, as you said, because it's kind of like you have to tell yourself, we're gonna have to pause on that. It may not be no forever, like you said, but it needs to be no for now because all of these other things, because you have to consider that you are more than the one thing.
we're all
Because you
caught.
yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all caught in the systems and the structures that harm. And I am caught too. And
Mhm.
by seeing kind of the current that we're in that leads us to overwork and overwhelm, by seeing it doesn't mean that I'm not in it too. Right.
Right.
And so, but I think that helps when I'm working
Yeah.
with clients that I'm not going to be flippant. Like, it's not this idea that there's some 3-step strategy
Yeah.
to like chill. Like none of us are chilling. Like no one's coming to me being like, I'm so bored. My CV is so long and I pump up articles so quickly. I
Right.
don't know what to do with my time. No, the people who are
Right.
coming to me, it's like, I am so exhausted that I'm now resentful of the things that used to bring me
That
joy
you
and the people that
yes.
I love, that I want to be there for. Now, when they come to me and they're like, my kid tells me, read me a story at night. I'm like, can't you just go to bed? Like you begin to resent
Right.
the people and
Resentful.
the roles and the things that you love, because there's so much need. And when you care and when you're competent, you get pushed into these spaces and pulled, like you pull yourself into
Right.
spaces to show up and show up and show up. And that is so important for us to show up, but also so extractive. And I'm never going to tell a client who does that, just say no. No, we grapple with, how do you elbow out some space and grace between the rock and the hard place? Like literally elbow out. And how do you fight the internal narrative that taught you that you have to show up, because of your gender, because of your racialization, because of dot, right?
Yeah.
How do you challenge that but not give up? Like, it's just gonna be all about me, like my spa date, right? But
Right.
it is, I'm going to center myself in the narrative of my life too, not instead of other people, but I'm also going to be part of this story that I'm writing. And that's not, there is no 3-step strategy to get us there. It's a constant learning and unlearning.
I love that. That's true. It's true. And I love that you're talking about like adding yourself, like centering yourself too, because the tendency is to center everyone else and all of their needs. And you forget that you're not in the audience of this story. Like you are,
Preach.
like you're not
Preach.
in the you're not performing from there. You need to be center stage and you need to be operating. I say that too quite often. I'm sort of like, telling folks you have to understand that this is your story. I mean, and how you participate is in the way that you make decisions about where you are on that stage and how you're interacting with these other folks. How important are you to your story? So there is a centering that has to happen for us to acknowledge the kinds of decisions that we have to make too, and to be okay with it at some point. There's that part too, isn't there? Because there's the part where you make the choice, and then there's the part where you're living with the choice, and that can be kind of hard, because you miss the old choice, right? Like you miss like being in the mix or part of that particular, aspect of the things happening, whether those things are, academic things on campus, or, you may have had to decide to take time away from certain parts of your family that are not, or certain parts of your whatever is going on, in the extra parts in the community or whatever. There are things that you make decisions about, but how do we then work through, the after effect too? Because there's always going to be a bit of a consequence
And that
to them.
consequence can be external, where people are angry and the backlash is real. I mean, the
Yeah.
research on the backlash for Black women who say no is significant, right? Because the expectation is that we'll show up and we'll do all the things. And so
Right.
there's backlash even from our own families as well as our institutions when we say no. And then there's the internal, as you mentioned, just the hard thoughts, like, who am I if I'm not showing up? Who do I think I am? How can I not? As well as the emotional part, the sadness, the grief, the regret of having to make different decisions, and also feeling selfish. That's the way the socialization is real. And I love my clients who are like, I need to not feel these things, and when is it going to feel okay? And I give them the very, very hard news that it won't feel okay. Values-based action, so acting from an intentional, values centered, and I mean all your values, not just the ones that vibrate the loudest, the values that may be undernourished and need to be focused on in a particular season of your life, those values-based action isn't one in which your thoughts and your feelings come along. It's doing the thing even when your inner critic is kicking up loud, that you don't get to make that decision. Who are you to make that decision? And even when you feel awful, we can still do the thing, right? Like I can have thoughts that I must eat this huge bag of cheese curls.
Not to be specific or anything.
Specific. And I can have feelings that I'm sad that I'm not eating, but I can choose. Sometimes not choose, but sometimes I have a problem with cheese curls. Okay. I can choose to not, especially if I don't bring the damn bag in the house. But there are ways that you can act even when your emotions are pushing you in a different direction, even when your thoughts are pushing you in a different direction. And it is the process that I work through with myself and with my clients that is very psychologically based, is acceptance of those thoughts, acceptance of those feelings. You know, I tell my kids all the time, there are two things you can't change: your emotions and other people, but you can change your relationship with both. And one of the ways you change your relationships with your emotions and your relationships with your thoughts, naming, acknowledging, and not getting hooked by them. Right? Just because my thought / my inner critic is saying loudly that, who do you think you are? You have to show up. Like this is why you came into academia. How can you say no to this thing? Right? I can actually watch or hear that thought, become aware of it without acting. I can feel
without feeling
bad.
like you have to respond to it. You can just sort of,
right.
There it is.
I recognize this thought. I name this feeling: grief, anger, frustration, sadness. And in that slowing down to recognize the thoughts and to connect with your emotional experience. And notice I said slowing down, which can be very hard to do in our frenetic life. You have to intentionally slow down. You create just a little bit of space between the trigger, whether it's an invitation, whether you're being pulled into a space to do more, and then your reaction, which is then to do more, right? To say yes. You create just a little bit of space for that values-based action. But in the freneticness of life, we move towards automaticity. And if you automatically say yes, you're going to be doing that over and over again. And that's what I mean by like elbowing out just between the rock and the hard place, just elbowing out some space to slow down, to think, and to make values-based choices. All of your values, not just the ones that vibrate at the highest level. And you're not always going to be able to make the choice to center yourself in your narrative too. It's going to be messy and incomplete. But if we as a collective can begin to create space for our own well-being, I think there could be a ripple effect that can expand beyond our own imagining. Can you imagine what life would have been like if there were models of Black women in your life that invited a slowing down, a centering both of community and you, both of family and you, right? You wouldn't have to like fight for it because you'd have models. The problem is we don't have models. So we're creating the models for ourselves.
I love that. I receive it. and it's operating alongside this, what I think is just this growing narrative. And I'm not really talking about like just the self-care narrative. I'm talking about this deeper narrative that I feel like is also emerging. And I think it was a phrase that my therapist used. And I love this phrase. And it was just like something to the effect of, maybe you'll recognize it, developing a sense of your own rhythms of rest. And I was like, rhythms of rest. Here's what I love about that it implies repetition. It's not just this sort of choppy way that sometimes we say, oh, okay, I'm gonna rest right now. And then I'm gonna
Or
designate
you
that
fall
moment
out.
to
You
rest.
It's not
Or
even
you
that
fall right.
you literally cannot go on.
You can't go on. You're not just deciding to rest. Your body has shut down and said it's time to rest. But yes, but just thinking about this idea, how are we creating that? And what you said about the space between the trigger, right? And you saying yes or no, but that space in that decision making where you stretch the optics a bit so that you're thinking about multiple values. I mean, that to me, those two together, this is what we're talking about when we're thinking about wellness, when we're thinking about, yes, you can do many things, but you always have to be conscious and aware of what is that distance between the ask and the answer, right? Like the trigger and and the response that you have. And what is the rhythm that you as conscious about the rhythm of your rest as you are about the rhythm of all this stuff, all the work, all the yeses, going on, because those are both to me about timing and rhythm. Is that making sense?
It is. And all I keep hearing resonating as you're speaking, it's like, how do we embrace the breadth of our full humanity?
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
So we are not just the length of our CV. We are not
Right.
just how we show up for other people. Right.
Yeah.
There is a breadth of our humanity in there. And that means that we also need rest.
Yeah.
We also need revivification. We
Mm-hmm.
also need like communities to hold us, to be soft places to land. It's not just we are the soft place to land for other people. And when you are the person that is either performing or actually or both strong, and you
Mm-hmm.
are the person who has made it out and gotten the doctorate and teaching at the university level, in our families, in our communities, we are the ones that people come to. And
Yeah.
it's hard to have mutuality in those spaces. And it's hard for people to see us as individuals of need. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yes.
and
Yes.
and so in some ways we're essentialized as the person who shows up and the person who works, and we're not viewed in whole person kind of ways. And
Mm.
so you're working against an entire narrative to carve
That
out a
does, yeah,
space of
that's not just
humanity.
academic either, because
Oh
you
no.
are representative of a narrative. You're literally the incarnate representative of of what that looks like, of
Yes, and
what
I
showing
studied
up
the
and
strong Black
being.
woman,
Yeah,
right? And I know
yeah.
like the more we internalize the strong Black woman stereotype, which means ever caregiving, which means
Mhm,
showing up no matter what, independence, I don't need anyone, and
mhm,
no space for vulnerability, right? I know from the research that I've done and others have done that increases depression, and
mhm.
that increases anxious symptom, like it has deleterious effects on our mental health. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine physical health too. I study mental health, but I'm
Yes.
sure it's affecting our physiology because those things are intertwined, right?
Right,
And
right.
so we're literally socialized into a space that causes us harm, and that doesn't even begin to account for the structures and the systems that require us to hold entire communities and families
Mhm.
to protect against the harm that these structures and systems perpetuate. And so it is exhausting.
Right.
And so when clients show up, it's like they are exhausted,
Yeah.
but can't figure out an alternative way of being. Because as I said, we don't have a lot of models
Mhm.
that show us the both and. So
Right.
not just giving it all to community or forget community, it's all about me, right? We
Right.
don't have a lot of models that honor the need to be in community, right?
Mhm.
And the need to be well. How do we hold that both and? Not a lot of spaces. And if you remember, that's our retreat, right? How can you be a whole person in dehumanizing spaces? How can you still show up and do the things that are so important to you in community while also being well? And it's a challenging practice, but I do believe it's possible. And for me, it's not like well-being is some destination we get to go to and then hang out. Like I made it and now I'm here forever. Like
I'm
it's a
well,
coming
and let
back.
me help all of y'all because I have figured it out.
Because the current is still moving. And
Yes.
for me, in the way that I teach, but also in the way that I think about it in my life, well-being is a coming back, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get caught in the currents, the racialized, gendered, heterosexist, capitalistic current, right? That's going to take us towards overwork. And the practice is about a coming back. A coming back to what matters most, a coming back to our humanity, a coming back to all of our values, right? And people are like, I can't believe I went through the coaching, I did all the things, and
I
now
should be fine now.
now I'm back here again. And I'm like, well, number one, you reached out right away. So you recognize that you got caught, which insight is the first step to behavioral change. And also, of course, the current is strong, and resistance is exhausting. To swim against the current is exhausting, and especially if you're doing it mostly alone. And so it is the identification that you're caught, hopefully earlier and earlier, and so that you get to come back. And then the coming back may be gentler if you have compassion for yourself for getting caught, acceptance of the current, and there's more grace and it doesn't feel as bad. But it's a practice.
Yeah, I mean, that part seems like the ultimate advice, just understanding that it's a return. Like there's a cycle to it, right? Like it's not a destination. Like there's a cycle, and it's, to me, literally impossible not to have to go through the cycle if you are operating in the world. There's not a way you don't get rubbed up against in those areas and have to respond somehow, for yourself. And so the returning to a space of wellness, I mean, obviously, if we didn't need it, we wouldn't need the retreats and we wouldn't always want to go back. But we know what happens when we get there. When we get there, how it is rejuvenating. And like you said, like you go through the process of not just resting, but kind of recovering your both and in some ways. It's like, okay, even if I feel like I achieved a measure of balance, I've been rubbed up against. The current has taken me adrift. I need to come back. And when I get back, then I can reset. And then both and doesn't seem so off kilter because I can remember I'm here too. Right.
That remembering, oh my gosh, and slowing down. People are like, well, what is a retreat going to do? What is a writing community that centers wellness is going to do for me if the winds keep blowing, the current keeps flowing? And at the very least, it creates the space to slow down. And if there's any advice that I would give people who feel caught or like they're teetering on burnout's edge or hell, free falling off the edge, it is like, how do you slow down to get clear on what matters most in this season? Because if you aren't intentional about what matters most in this season, the default is going to be your North Star. And the default, we all know, is show up no matter how exhausted you are, is to do more. That for the academics in your audience, like, this, Academia is like,
yeah.
yep, nice publication. When's your next one?
When's
Yep,
the
great
next one?
class. When's your next one?
When are you going up for the next thing? Are
a-
you going to try the
you
next
have
thing?
10 students, maybe you need 12 to mentor through the doctoral program. Like, it's always enough is n+1, and n is whatever you're doing right now. There's always more.
Exactly the equation. That's it. That's the
It's the
equation.
equation internally, but I think it's also the equation externally. Like,
Yeah.
part of my process is that I have to remind people that I'm human, right? I
Yeah.
have to remind people that I have boundaries, like supervisors in the space, because we're not
Right.
necessarily in these humanizing spaces, and so we have to speak our truth that we're
Yeah.
humans and we're at our capacity, right,
Right.
in academic spaces especially,
Mm.
because those spaces can be, and there's so much literature to talk about how we are marginalized in these spaces, and these spaces can be dehumanizing, and how we get viewed by a different yardstick by students as well as our
Absolutely.
supervisors. And so for us, we're carrying, like, not only our own hopes and wishes, but we represent our entire group when we're the only or one of the few in these spaces. And that's a heavy burden, and that's part of the current
It
that
is.
pushes us to show up and to overperform.
Right. You've got to be better than the best. You've got to be the best. Absolutely, unquestionably the best at
And
it.
still
And
be marginally accepted at that.
at that. And
if
and
if you're marginally accepted, yes.
right. And also knowing full well that the standard will change while you're standing there being the best
But not
because
for
the
equivocate.
equation
Maybe it stays
is,
for you
yes,
and folks that look like you.
because that's not because the equation resets the
Mm-hmm.
moment you achieve the equation resets.
And it's crazy making when you're
Yeah.
in these spaces and you're experiencing oppression. It is crazy making. I
Mm,
mean, sometimes it's so blatant that you can be
yeah.
like, there it is. But
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, it's subtle,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, is it me? Is it the thing
Right.
that's happening? And okay, if I work harder, maybe these things won't happen to me. If I have the perfect class, maybe students will then not say these horrible things on my evaluation. And
Mm,
this is what I mean by we're caught, right? We're in a system and a structure that pushes us to overperform. And it's part of why I have kind of an ambivalent relationship with self-help, just the entire industry, because
mm,
there is this idea that you are responsible for your happiness, you are responsible, it's just the
mm-hmm.
meritocracy kind of idea put in a different way. But the
Well,
you know the
and that you can solve like you're just do this and
just
it'll fix it.
change and do these 3 steps and it will be
Mm,
better. Like, oh,
mm,
but don't structures and systems influence our access, our experiences, and our outcomes? Like, don't we have reams and reams and reams of research literature and history to show us this? But oh no, like, if everybody, regardless of your positionality, follows these three
right,
steps, you're going to be
right.
chilling. Like,
Yeah.
it's complicated and more nuanced than that. I wish.
It's like you said, nobody is chilling.
Nobody I know, nobody's chilling. It's the opposite. We're just trying to figure out a way
Mm,
to do what matters to us, but not do it in a way that work takes over our life.
right, right. This seems so apropos for this moment where I feel like we're still in the wave of change, right? That really started years ago, but is kind of, I want to say, I hope it's a crescendo, but just a wave of things that are happening that are impacting so many Black women in particular, the loss of jobs, just the all kinds of things that are impacting even those of us who are still in positions, but some people whose positions have had to be changed and moved around, and there's just all of this really chaotic feeling that is continuous, hits us hard, and it's not just ourselves, but I love that we can give this away. Like, part of it is serving each other, like you said, in a sort of community of being able to say to another person in this space, like, to ask those questions, how are you slowing down? What is it that you are feeling? And have you talked to someone? And do you have community? Who is in your circle? Like, all of these kinds of things that are kind of bubbling to the top to me because of the isolation, because of it. When there are so many parts that are moving, it's so easy for folks to just feel really isolated and feel like either it's happening to everyone, so therefore it's not important that it's happening to me, or it's only happening to me, it's not happening to them. It's like we're in these weird times. So I'm really grateful for this whole conversation and the way that it's kind of setting up a way to approach it, to kind of slow down, to think about that all of your values together in that, between that moment of the trigger and the decision making. And also just to throw in, like, how are you really resting? What does that really look like for you? And meaning getting away. Getting away to rest sometimes, or even setting up a rhythm for yourself. Like, sometimes I'll do like a wellness Wednesday kind of thing, like set up some kind of rhythm, that you can look forward to, that even psychologically you can begin to set up a rhythm of rest for yourself, because it feels like all of those things are necessary, because like you said, nobody's chilling. Nobody's out here just doing nothing, and we're doing all the things.
And yet not necessarily being seen, right? It's seen in our labor. Our labor can be so invisibilized, and that is a real challenge. And that's what I mean by our spaces can be really dehumanizing. Like, what the context is. Are the people in your space who have power over you, who make decisions about your chairs, your deans, your provosts, are they recognizing how the context that we're living in right now are
Right.
how that context impacts people differently depending on our positionality?
Yeah.
Right? Like our
Right.
Latina sisters,
Mhm.
how are they managing this
Mhm.
moment right now, where they fear they can be scooped up by
Yeah.
ICE, regardless of whether they have papers or not,
Yeah.
and be treated in dehumanizing ways? Like, how do you function in a space where that context is looming large over
Right.
you and your family and your community? It's a lot. And we're in spaces that just like, okay, now do the training, now teach the other class, now like as if we're living
Just keep it moving. Yeah.
in this decontextualized, like, where's the compassion and the
Mm,
seeing and the
that
holding
part.
of each other? And that's what I mean by dehumanizing. Dehumanizing can be in many different ways, but I mean
Mhm.
just holding the whole
Yeah.
person and supporting the whole person. Like, that is my wish for our institutions, whether that institution is in academia or not. Like,
Mhm.
I wish that our institutions had a more whole person approach, and it wasn't about how do we extract the most out of the individuals, but that the institutions obviously want us to work, but then hold us when the context is really challenging. In this moment, I mean, many moments, right? But this moment
Mhm.
in particular is so challenging for many of us. And for those of us who write
Right.
about these events and write about the collective grief and pain, like that, let me tell you, I would much rather be writing about, I don't know, like, I don't know, different flavors of Girl Scout cookies than be writing about mothering in this moment. And
Mm,
it's so I purposely have to slow down my writing because the emotional heaviness of the writing is real because I'm a
yeah,
mom. I'm living
yeah,
it, I'm writing about it, I'm reading the research on it, and I'm just thinking about how what we're collectively holding
yeah. I
in
was
this
just going
moment.
to ask you about the writing, like, and the way that writing operates in such a healing way, but also when you do what we do, it also can be, it can also lend itself to the exhaustion, like the emotional exhaustion, because it's triggering, right? Like you're operating in this chaotic moment, but then you're also trying to write about it in a way that is revelatory. Like it's going to reveal those things, but it's in some way, how is it going to also serve? Um, you
Yeah,
know,
writing requires thinking, which requires healing.
yeah,
It's like, and
yeah,
if you're in the moment and experiencing the pain and there's no space for healing and you're on the tenure track, right,
mm,
and there's no time, like you, it's
right,
just keep it moving, publish or perish. It's such a setup for exhaustion and burnout. And yeah, I could
yeah,
say I could spend like all day talking with you about how do
I know,
we how do we find ways to manage that, just other than naming that these challenges exist. But like I said, it's not a sound bite how we
no,
practice healing and well-being in these spaces where there's so much pressure.
mhm.
And I worked in industry, I know it's not just academia.
Right, I was gonna say, this is actually applying to all the ways that we're operating in the world right now.
Yes.
For sure in
And
corporate spaces, immediately there. I mean, because academia is mirroring corporate space in so many ways, so I'm sure they're much more used to it even.
and
Um,
that's sad when you get
yeah, I
used
was
to
gonna say,
kind
and
of
that doesn't make it better.
the
So just
fear um of not having job security or being micromanaged, like all the things.
yeah,
I think one of the reasons that I have chosen, or a few of the reasons that I've chosen to stay in academia, and it
mhm,
comes from the privilege of being a tenured full professor, but it's
right,
job security. And there's
right,
less job security now for those of us who do justice work, but there's still more job security than I ever experienced in industry. I'm sure there are other spaces and other businesses that folks can work in with more job security than I had when I worked as a negotiator. But like every
mhm,
year there'd be pink slips handed out, and it was
yeah,
really anxiety provoking. And so having agency, freedom to, at least at this point, write what I want to write, teach what I want to teach, although that is being encroached for a lot of us.
yes,
um Having job security and doing meaningful work, those three things, like I'm clear about what my values are, and I'm clear that at this point I still get that in the academy.
right, right.
Plus, like, my students are amazing,
Yeah, right, like
as are my colleagues, and so I'm like, okay, this is still a space that I'm going to choose
yes.
to be in, which is very different than feeling like you're stuck.
Yes. Yes, that's true. I do think a lot of this is super useful for all folks, and I'm even gonna say that, even for creatives, because for all the same kinds of reasons, and I say creatives in the sense that, just our artists out there, are folks who are, entrepreneurs who are or in other kinds of non-traditional or nonprofit kinds of spaces where again, the security, the having to say yes, feeling compelled by so many things that are chaotic around us and moving pieces. And just, I think it all applies though. I think it still all applies that you still have to do that in that feeling of having to do both and you still have to find the space. and you have to like care for yourself, and you have to recognize that you're not by yourself, and that we're all out here trying to make sure that we are well. And I want you to tell folks, when is the next retreat? Because that's what they want to know.
You know, I
need to be on the mountain with her.
It's 2027 actually is when the next, because Hurricane Helene postponed the 2024.
You didn't have to say it like it's my name exactly. You didn't have to say it like that.
Oh, sorry that they named a hurricane after you.
I think it was Helena. I think it was
my bad. When Hurricane Helena showed up, it shifted our 2024 retreat to this year, February 2025. And since I'm committed to having the retreats 2 years apart, that moved the 2026 retreat to 2027.
Gotcha. But they can get ready.
I also have a wellness and writing program where we write together. I don't talk about writing. Like, you do amazing work in coaching folks about how to get their writing done in a way that is whole and healthy, right? Because you know, I called you up we talked with this book. And so it's like a complement to that, but it's literally the writing. We write based on a psychological structure that I created to help people get the writing done. And so, and it's centered on wellness. So although the retreat happens every 2 years, it's called
you
Focus
can be a
Fridays.
Part of this writing
the
group.
Focus Fridays happens
to help
every
in
semester.
your wellness journey. Yes. And so,
you know, I'm not going to do anything where it's not about wellness.
I know. That's why I'm like, oh, you're going to you listen. If y'all connect with Roxanne, you're going to be all right. It's going to be all right. I'm telling you.
That is my hope.
How do they find you? Get in this writing, this wellness writing group, connect for this retreat. Where do they find you?
Well, first of all, you don't need to pay to get resources. I think part of my ethos, part of what matters is that I want to make a lot of what I do freely available, because not everyone has access to professional development funds to pay for the writing retreat. So I do a bi-weekly newsletter called, and when you said Wellness Wednesday, it literally made my heart fill with love. It's called Wellness Wednesday, where I share, it's for academics, but I think there are non-academics who are writers and creatives on my list too. It just helps you figure out how to do that elbowing, right? How do you create free time? How do you create more freedom in your life when so many things are pushing on you? I just want folks to be able to exhale. And the Wellness Wednesday newsletter is the best way to get, and it's free, to get content to help you begin the journey. And you can sign up at wellacademic, one word, .com.
And I will drop the link in the show notes so you all can get to Dr. Roxanne Donovan, as well as to get on her list. You want the Wellness Wednesday emails, the newsletters. Maybe that's how I initially came. I have passed that newsletter around. Yes, it's one of the few times I may have replied and said, "Oh my God," with the ugly cry. But you need to be on this list. You need to get into this ecosystem, because we need this. Even if you're not an academic, you will benefit from it, because it makes you pause for a moment and think about where you are and how you are managing your own wellness. And so I want to encourage folks to do that, to reach out, to go to wellacademic.com. But also, you say a little bit about your book that you're working on, and when is that? Is that something that's coming out soon?
So I'm co-authoring the book with my bestie, who is also a faculty member in education at Kennesaw State, and we co-mother We mothered together. My youngest is the same age as her son, and we've been on this mothering journey. And as Black feminists, we mother from a Black feminist perspective, from a Black feminist framework. So the book is basically the framework. We're sharing it with people to invite a more humanizing approach to mothering, particularly in these times.
Yes.
And when will it come out, girl? Your guess is as good as mine. Like, we're gonna have to talk about coaching.
I know. But that gives everyone a sense too of, like, you know, where some of the conversations are and what's welcome there, and how you're thinking about your work and the application of your work in real life, and the kind of knowledge and understanding that they're going to get when they connect with you as well, that you're walking this walk in real life, in real time, and doing this work in, you know, for people, serving them, but also for yourself in your lives and with the circles that you have. And that's wonderful. So we want to definitely applaud you for that. This is how we applaud in this generation, apparently.
Thank you.
It's a little anticlimactic to me, but okay. That's how they're doing it. Thank you, Roxanne, for joining me, for talking with us on the Vision Builders podcast. It has been a pleasure, and we'll be talking more because we need to connect, and I need to be well.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for creating this podcast. I think it's much needed. You are a breath of fresh air, and I really enjoy listening to you. So I'm pretty honored to be on the podcast with you.
Thank you so much. Hey creatives, if you're hearing this, then you've been listening to the Vision Builders podcast with Dr. Helene, your writing life coach. Join me next time to get more insights, tools, and resources to help you get the clarity and direction you need to finish that project and build your vision. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Y'all know how this works. And share. Let somebody else know what you are learning in this podcast. Be sure to check the show notes for a link to my website where you can sign up for my mailing list and get even more tools and resources. With that, I will sign off. Bye.